That's a couple of questions too. And we just put out another fact sheet. We've had a lot of questions on the incident about donations and what the public can do to help. We've had a lot.
I'm going to go in this room, this media thing.
Oh, no.
I hope not. No, because is it?
What's this?
It's a.
There we go. Anyways, we've had a lot of people ask about donations, if they can help with donations and so forth. Our CAL FIRE incident bases are self-contained. We support logistically. We have no issues with supporting our troops that are on the ground, everybody that's assigned to the incident. In lieu of donations, we do ask, please contact your local Red Cross or your local agencies that can take donations to help with the public or anybody that's been evacuated, or any of those food banks or anything like that that may help in the community. So as a whole, we absolutely appreciate the donations that people want to give. It is great, but please, as the public has that stuff, please take it to those agencies that may help out in other areas. Thank you.
That's great. Thank you, Chief. Let's now go to our Director of Emergency Management for the County of Sonoma, Chris Godley. Chris, you have an update for us?
Yes, good afternoon. In support of the evolving situation on Myers and the ability for our residents to reaccess that area, we have established re-entry check-in points, not required for folks to check in, but if they'd like to do so, we have information available about the fire in the area, as well as, of course, information that would help keep people safe. And if people are expecting to return to areas that have been burned, we also are issuing personal protective equipment for individuals to make sure they can go back onto their property and do so safely. Additionally to which, the public health officer has issued an order this afternoon limiting the ability for people to move into areas that have been burned and make contact with potentially hazardous materials. That information has now been posted to the website. In addition to the activity occurring out near the Myers fire, we are also continuing to support potential opportunities to come back into the area and larger perimeters of the fire. But right now, given the uncertain nature of the fire, that is not happening. But we are prepared to move as soon as possible once it's allowable to re-enter and repopulate that area. We want to make sure there's no delay on our side to make sure people can do so safely and effectively. At this time, the only other information I have to offer at this point is that there's a continued mobilization of both state and federal resources, as the Congressman alluded to, and we are looking to establish local assistance centers in the area later this week. Certainly as the ability for people to come back into the area supports their access to those centers. We'll have that information on site at these locations as well as virtually. That completes my report.
Great, thank you, Chris. And for more on our our evacuation zones, we have Sergeant Juan Valencia from the Sonoma County Sheriff's Department. Sergeant, you have an update for us?
Yes, thank you for having me. So I just want to remind people that evacuation zones or evacuation warnings are meant for a purpose. They're meant to keep people safe, keep people out, to let fire personnel fight the fire and do what they're good at, is get in there and save our community. We work closely with CAL FIRE. We meet with them on a regular basis. And also on the patrol side, we have approximately 150 law enforcement personnel, 100 deputies, and 50 allied agencies from the Bay Area helping us keep the community safe, keeping looters out. We've made one arrest of one person entering a evacuation zone. We have no arrest for looting. This morning, a subject was arrested in the Greenville area for a warrant. And was cited out, and if you could read about that on our Facebook website, or there's a post about that. Also, the Wallbridge fire, as CAL FIRE said, they feel good about it. We just want to keep people out of the area. We're still trying to get people trying to enter a evacuation zone or that's under an order. I just want to remind people also that there's no numbers as of yet. CAL FIRE is working on that of homes destroyed by the fire. And right now, people are feeling anxious, scared of what's going on. This is our third fire and basically in the third year. So we understand that. We just want people to be patient with one another, take care of yourself, take care of your family, and also your neighbors. Nothing else to report.
Thank you, Sergeant. That's well put. So we're going to go to some questions now, and we want to start with one that we've been hearing in the community a lot of the last day or so, which is, can you give us a rough estimate of when we can expect to see repopulation of some of the lower river communities, Rio Nido, Hacienda, Cazadero, some of these other communities? I mean, are we talking a week out, days? Any projections? Maybe Chief Nichols, do you have a thought on that?
So we talked about that this morning on this morning's media briefing. Basically, I think it's overzealous at this point to expect that it's maybe the next day or so. My guess would be several days at this point. Depending on what fire conditions do over the next several days, I would be surprised if it's greater than 5 days. But fire is going to dictate when we get people back into the community, when it's safe for them to be back. There's been some infrastructure damage along Sweetwater Springs. We got to make sure that it's safe for folks to get back into the area, so we don't create needless injuries bringing people back home. So know that we're doing everything in our power to get them back home just as soon as we possibly can.
Okay, thank you. We're going to go to some other questions now from the media. We encourage you to raise your hand from the media who are here with us. Also, for those following us on Facebook Live, you can leave a question in the comments box, and we'll go through as many of those as we can. Let's first start with Mary Callahan. Mary?
Hi, all. This is probably for Chief Kavanaugh or Chief Nichols. Congressman Huffman referenced sort of a turning of the corner, which I think is probably a sense that many of us have today, or hope we legitimately have today, or maybe that we're at the verge of the corner. I'm wondering how you guys feel about that. And also if you could describe for us a sense of, we have this burn zone on a map. How much of that actual space in there is still on fire inside that perimeter?
Ben, you want to take the second half of that question?
Sure, Chief. So as far as the perimeter of the fire, the 54,000 acres, most of that is well interior of the burn, and that was the fire front moved through there days ago, and any holdover fire, other than large, heavy down material, has probably burned itself out at this point. There's going to be isolated hot spots within that overall burn area, but the main fire activity is right along the fire's edge. Several hundred feet in normally is where you're going to find the most active fire, and the flaming front really is the edge of the fire and short distance in.
And as far as the first half of that question, as far as comfort and where we're sitting with the incident, so the last couple of days we haven't had a lot of large growth on the incident just because of the inversion that we've had. But as I just said when I started over there, now that the sun's up, we're starting to get clear skies. We are going to get active burning again. We are having active burning, like I said, over here on the east zone in a couple areas as we speak right now. That's actually having a good fire behavior. So. Are we liking what we're seeing and the work that's being done over on the Walbridge Fire? Absolutely. I think there's a good plan in place. We're getting the resources over there to make that happen. But I want to make sure we're clear is this is a very large fire. It's at any other time, a 50,000 acre timber fire, it is an extremely large, difficult incident. Is it being overshadowed from the sheer size of the other incidents, the entire complex that we have here? A little bit, just because it's a 50,000 acre timber fire when we're talking 340,000 acres altogether. But there's a lot of work that has to be done over there still. So Are we feeling good about the plan? Absolutely. Can weather and other things that can hamper some of those control efforts, that can still happen. So we're keeping a vigilant look at that and trying to coordinate our plans to mitigate that.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Let's go to John Ferranini. John?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, you're on, John. Go ahead.
Okay, hi. So I just wanted to ask what the anchors that were, how many anchors were affected by the Wallbridge fire?
So as of this morning, we're at 54,068 acres.
Okay, thank you.
Myers Fire is holding at 2,350 acres for the Wallbridge, or for the Myers.
Okay, let's go to Jeremy Hay. Jeremy.
Hello?
You're on, Jeremy.
Okay, thank you. Hello, everybody. I apologize if this has been asked and answered in the last day or so, but I noticed that I know that last Thursday, I think it was, we were the Wallbridge fire was put at the top priority of the LNU complex, and I think it was this morning at the 11 a.m. briefing in the fairgrounds in Calistoga that I think it was Operations Chief Waters was talking about the fire at the Palisades going up toward Lake County that was now, I believe, described as the top priority in the complex. So I just wondered if you could talk a little bit about that and what that means.
Absolutely. And the areas that I'm talking about right now that we're having a problem with as I speak is that area. That's on the map. If you have a operations map, that is the division of Tango, uniform. And that is the area right now that we're having some control issues in. And we've got resources up there. We're trying to get aircraft that we can fly when the sky's clear. So that is why that is a really tough chunk of ground up there. And with the weather conditions and that change with the south to southwest flow, when the prioritization of the entire incident of both big fires, that was a priority, and it's come to their operational prioritization has come in effect because that is the area where we're having that problem at. So when they look at trying to utilize, we're looking at the problem areas. So that was where Chief Waters was talking about this morning.
Thank you, Commander. Does that mean, just a quick follow-up, that there'll be any fewer resources on the Wallbridge, or that they'll be diverted to the fire?
No, not necessarily. No, we have the resources we've allocated over there that we've put over there. That is extremely important. It just when he was talking about prioritization of the entire effort, so there could be some more aircraft, and helicopters we're looking at. We have a helibase that's set up right there in Middletown. There's also one over there at Hillsburg. So it just priority. They're trying to focus on making sure we have a good control line there. So overall, and I think this is a good question here, and I really do appreciate your question. You know, this is very difficult. It is a large incident that I've been saying. And last week, after about the third day, when we were still having IA new fires, you know, I asked our operations section every single day, I want you guys to make sure, you know, what are your priorities throughout the entire incident? In the firefighting world, we have to do that, because if we're just out there not having a plan around the entire incident and not picking areas that we need to go, that organization, it could be unorganized. And so having those priority areas, they know these areas are key areas that we have to look at. So that is done every single day. And last night when they came in, there's like, and yesterday, we've got to look at that Tango uniform at the county line of Lake Napa, or at Napa and Lake. And that's where we're having the issue right now.
Thank you so much.
So you're clear, it doesn't mean that we're pulling resources from the Wallbridge. That's not necessarily the case.
Okay, we'd now like to go to our some of our supervisors and hear from them. Supervisor Hopkins, Do you have a report for us?
Thank you very much. I won't take very much time, and I don't want to sound too much like a mama hen, but I just have to say that I am so damn proud of West County today. As usual, we have shown grit and determination in the face of significant challenges. I'd also like to express gratitude to every single person who took in family members, friends, livestock, pets, actually including our own CAO, Cheryl Bratton. She was telling me she had a couple extra horses at her place today. People who fed evacuees, who supported us emotionally. And I also want to give a huge shout out to the local volunteer firefighters who mobilized equipment and supported CAL FIRE's efforts. And then I would like to also thank all of our fantastic local nonprofits, West County Community Services, West County Health Centers, Russian River Alliance, who stepped up to support residents. Over the past few days, Russian River Alliance actually handed out $7,000 in grocery store gift cards and emergency assistance. So as we're moving and seeing us sort of turn the corner on this disaster, if you do feel the urge to do something, I have a couple of requests. Number one, as I said earlier today, after the mandatory evacuations relax, go out there and support those small businesses who were in the mandatory evacuation zones. And secondly, if you do have the financial capacity, consider opening your checkbook, your Venmo, your PayPal, your credit card, and donating to some of those local nonprofits who will be supporting our community in the times to come. I started with gratitude, and like any good mom, I'll end with a little bit of guilt. I actually feel slightly guilty for the fact that I'm going to be sleeping in my bed tonight when so many thousands of Russian River residents are still outside of their homes. But I think that you heard from Chief Ben Nichols that they are doing everything they can to button up this fire, and we don't want to put you back there while there is still any potential of being in harm's way. So hold tight. I know this is tough. I know that you'll be back again soon. And in the meantime, that we're all rooting for all of those firefighters out on the line to get this thing under control so that we can get folks back home. Thank you everyone so much for your work.
Thank you, Supervisor Hopkins. Those are certainly sentiments that many of us feel. Supervisor Gore.
Yeah, thank you, Paul. And just going to weigh in and what it looks like on the ground out here in some of the fire zones. We've talked about how difficult it is and we know everybody wants to get back in. But if you drive down Mill Creek Road, if you drive up Chemise Road onto Big Ridge, if you drive up certain sections of Sweetwater Springs, but especially the prior ones that I mentioned, there's some areas back there that are pretty hairy, very dangerous. A lot of trees still falling, a lot of arborists, a lot of Sonoma County Public Works crews, PG&E, other people doing significant infrastructure work, so that's going to basically prepare us for the long road to recovery. So at the same time, we talk about how much we appreciate our first responders and others, but specifically, when you get out there and you see the amount of dozer work, these dozers going straight into fires, these dozers going around houses and doing structure defense even before a fire could come there, these firefighters lighting backfires around some of those structures, going into the maps, going around doing exactly what they need to do. And then the air forces that we've seen, which, 100% degree of confidence, kept this thing from flying out on the northeast edge and getting closer and closer to Cloverdale and northern Geyserville and Hillsburg and these areas. I mean, the air fight up there was significant, and it was shocking to see all our VLATs, our very large air tankers, the 747, the DC-10s, the helicopters, the dozers. I mean, significant amount of work done. So that's what it looks like. It does still look like a war zone out there in some areas, and that's why it's difficult to get people back in. The first thing that happens is the county usually moves into a process, and maybe if Chris Godley's on the call, he can talk about this a little bit, but where we do a household hazardous waste sweep, where we identify structures that are down. And then, under the health order is some of those are still very dangerous. There's still propane tanks leaking. There's still burnt paint and all kinds of other chemicals and other things in there. What our household hazardous waste folks do is they go into those properties and they do an initial scrub. They pull up all these stuff and take them off property. And then we really, at the same time, kind of concurrent with that, but we can provide PPE, private personal protective equipment and other things for people to get back in. The other thing that it looks like out there is that as much as we look at the work that's needed to continue to fight this fire, keep the box strong and keep suppressing where is needed and watching it burn, but in a contained place. You also go out there and you see an insurmountable amount of watershed work. Trees in all these ravines, ash on the ground. Just an extreme amount of work. People are going to be seeing hydro seeding in certain areas. The kind of hydro seeding can sometimes look like you're in a peppermint patty kind of animated land at a certain degree. There's going to be a lot of trees coming down over the right of way that are dangerous for folks who are interested in the health and the potential of their trees to be saved in certain areas. Get an arborist at an appropriate time to go out and take a look. We can help you with that as well. But that there's an empirical design around what we can save and what we can't. There's a lot of stuff that's in the right of way that's going to be a danger, and it's going to have to come down. And that can be a second disaster for some people. We've experienced this. This third fire in 4 years that we've been into, and we know it's coming. The other thing is that just expect that we're going to once we mobilize the local assistance center, we'll also we will set up community meetings, probably virtual this time more than in person. At the same time, we'll be rallying around all our state, federal, and local partners to get you whatever resources we need. It's basically everything from over here, you can get your driver's license. Over here, you can go check out your permit history if you want to already think about rebuild. Over here, you can think about, you can talk with some of the watershed folks about if you want to do hydro seeding and other things like that. This recovery in this area will be more akin to Kincaid fire than into Tubbs fire. The sheer number of individuals in the Tubbs fire and the suburban and urban nature of that disaster created a huge plug and a huge need on infrastructure. But we have, as you can see on my shirt, I'm representing today. This is Coffee Strong, one of our groups that rose up as block captains and has owned their own future. And yesterday I was wearing from Larkfield Estates and some of the other ones a block captain shirt. But it's a reminder that there's resources out there and that there's people who you can talk to, whether it's how do you manage your insurance company, how do you deal with FEMA, how do you deal with SBA, the bureaucracy, and overall how you can deal with the trauma. There's quite a few mental health resources. Supervisor Zane and others have focused on that over the last couple meetings, but I want to just stress that they are out there, and we continue to support those in the best of our ability because we all know that this trauma is deep and it runs true. At the same time, one of the ways that we've seen people deal with trauma effectively is to get busy. And to get involved in recovery. And so we invite you to join that campaign, and we'll take your lead. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Gore. There are indeed many fronts to this battle right now, and one of them involves not just the air quality, but our COVID-19 crisis, our pandemic, which we're continuing to deal with through this all. So Dr. Sundari Mace, our public health officer, is joined us, and we'd like to go to her now for an update on our COVID-19 situation. Dr. Mace?
Great. Thank you so much, Paul. Let me give you the quick briefing for today. So, as just introduced, I'm Dr. Sundari Mace, Sonoma County's health officer. I'm here to share the latest updates on coronavirus with you and talk a little bit about these compounding risks associated with fires. So our update on cases as of yesterday, August 23rd, is that we have 5,120 confirmed cases. 2,013 are active, 3,035 have recovered. There have been 72 deaths, and there's been no change in this in the last 24 hours. We've done almost 95,000 coronavirus tests to date. Right now, the wildfires are on everyone's mind. And I want to take this time to remind you that, as always, this time of the year, we need to be prepared. Unlike other fire seasons, though, we now have the added layer of keeping COVID in mind. There are three pillars of prevention. They are the face coverings or masks, physical or social distancing, and general hygiene measures like hand washing. Regarding the face coverings, remember, the virus is carried in droplets that are easily spread when someone coughs, sneezes, or even sings or talks. Cloth coverings help prevent the spread of COVID-19 by keeping the germs to yourself, and in the act of wearing the facial covering, modeling to others this act of caring and courtesy, so that of decreasing spread of COVID in the community. Although cloth facial coverings are best for reducing transmission of the virus, they don't protect against the harmful effects of smoke. The most effective mask to wear during a wildfire, when there's poor air quality like we're experiencing now, are those you've likely seen and used in the past. They filter out particles and have a valve for exhalation, making it easier to breathe, stay dry, and cool. Alone, they do not help prevent the spread of COVID-19. In addition, the masks that have the valves could actually enhance spread of COVID-19. So at this time, an N95 mask without a valve for exhalation is the best choice if you're going to be exposed to particles, ash, and if you're at risk for that kind of exposure. Regarding physical distancing, you should stay at least 6 feet apart from others when outside of your home. And this takes on an even greater importance because as the smoke irritates people's airwaves, they are more likely to sneeze and cough. So if they actually have COVID and maybe even would have been symptomatic or asymptomatic, they may now have the symptoms of cough and be more likely to spread COVID. Best option is to remain indoors and go outside only for essential activities. Limit socializing with people outside of your own household. Regarding general hygiene measures, wash your hands often, use soap and water between your fingers, under your nails for at least 20 seconds. And if soap and water are unavailable, use hand sanitizer with at least 60% alcohol content. Remember, as you prepare your go bag in the event you must evacuate, make sure to include your face coverings and hand sanitizer with at least 60% alcohol content. We do have a community question for today. Is COVID testing still going on in Sonoma County during the fires? Yes, COVID testing continues in the county. We're accustomed to handling multiple emergencies at the same time, and this remains the case even today. The county's pop-up testing and other vendors' COVID-19 testing programs continue to run at full capacity. For more information on testing and where to get tested, visit socoemergency.org. Thank you all and stay safe.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Mace. At this point, we have a few more questions, and we'll go back to our media members. Mary Callahan, you have a question?
Sorry about that. Chris Godley mentioned something about, I missed it, some kind of instruction about people returning or people being with limited access to returning. I didn't catch what he was saying.
Hi, this is Chris Godley. Real briefly, we're looking at ensuring that people can return to the area of the Myers fire, which was under mandatory evacuation order. It's now under a warning only, but we understand people want to get back in there. So to that end, we prepared information that will allow them to be safe, what to watch out for, how to be careful. And if they stop by the reentry check-in station over there by the town of Bodega, they can actually pick up both that information in hard copy format, as well as personal protective equipment that might allow them to, say, wear a Tyvek suit or booties on their shoes, as well as gloves and masks to make sure that their visit, if they go onto those burned properties, is safe.
Okay, thank you. I thought there had been something else. And then also, fire chiefs, in terms of weather outlook beyond today, is it looking favorable?
The weather is supposed to stay relatively similar to what we have today for the next couple days, allowing us to continue working in the areas that have the most significant threats.
Thank you.
Okay, again, we'll go back to our chiefs for this question. We're getting a number of inquiries from our Facebook audience, mainly about updates in certain areas. A number are asking, again, for an update on the state of Armstrong Woods and also about Cazadero specifically. Chief Nichols, do you have an update on
that? So I missed the first part of that question, but as far as Armstrong Woods, we have a fire that has made it, has backed down the slopes into the upper portion of the park near the Colonel Armstrong tree. The strike team that we have pre-positioned in the park to do structure defense has mitigated the structure defense problem, and they are deploying as we speak to ensure that the fire doesn't get to the Colonel Armstrong tree tonight. That is another critical piece so that we keep it in the canyon proper because the slope on the west side of the park up to the Pool Ridge fire trail is a very steep slope. And if it got onto that slope and was able to have a slope driven run, we'd have a threat of the fire getting over our control line. So we're actively monitoring that, and we have the resources in place to ensure that to do everything we can to make sure that doesn't happen. As far as Cazadero, no real fire activity during the day today. We did just receive a report that there may be a fire in the area of the 19,000 block of King Ridge Road. Our resources are investigating as we speak. Could you repeat the first part of that question?
That's what they were asking for, just situational updates in those specific areas. So thank you very much. Okay, let's go to another member of our press corps, Martin Espinoza.
Hi there. I had a question for Dr. Mace. So we know how bad things can get in terms of COVID spreading whenever there's like a wedding or something like that. Here we have a situation where we've got thousands of people evacuated from their homes, and most of those people are not at the shelters. They're probably staying either hotels or with friends or family. Do you think that all of this displacement will result in more cases of COVID-19?
I think whenever we have people who are in contact with one another that don't normally live together, that there's definitely a risk of transmission of COVID. So we'll have to wait and see what the impact of this displacement and the evacuations are on our COVID pandemic and the numbers.
As a follow-up, so I took a look at our numbers. We're at about 290 cases per 100,000 for the last 14 days. That's still on the website. It's pending. We don't have the county's figure. Maybe if you could tell me if I'm off or right on that. Test positivity of 10%. I'm not going to ask when you think we'll be coming off that watch list, but what do you think the next few weeks is going to hold for Sonoma County? And today the governor announced that 5 more counties had come off the list, including Napa.
Yeah, I think that first of all, we need to make sure that all the numbers match up, and we're still in the process of finalizing how our numbers might in any way differ from the state. For right now, you're at the state's website, you're correct about those numbers. So we will be updating our dashboard soon, and we'll see where we land. At this time, we still have a high case rate and a high test positivity rate, as you pointed out.
Is there any good news? I do see our ICU patients a lot fewer now than we had a month ago.
Yeah, and I think our outbreak in our skilled nursing facilities is definitely slowing down, which is actually really good news for our vulnerable population. So hopefully, we can stay with less cases amongst residents and staff in the skilled nursing facilities.
Thank you.
Okay, we're getting a couple of questions. People still concerned about water quality and the fires impacting our water supply. I don't know if we have an update on that. Maybe Chris Godley, do you maybe respond to those questions?
Not as such regarding the water quality, although it's closely being monitored by Sonoma Water, especially production at Woolworth. I do not believe there's been any impact at this time. However, the major focus is on the short and the long-term protections for the watershed itself, especially surrounding Lake Sonoma. There have been ongoing discussions and assessments about bringing in specialized teams that can assess that watershed to ensure that they're addressing not only the ash, which is an obvious potential contaminant, but if there are other sources of potential contamination, mineral sets, heavy metals in the area that may have been produced by the fire, as well as addressing all the built infrastructure in that watershed area to determine if it may be a pollution source. That's part of the ongoing assessment that's currently being conducted in the areas that are accessible. Of course, there are some areas where we still can't get in there. That's about all I've got at this point.
Okay, great. I'd now like to go to Supervisor Zane. Do you have any final comments for us today?
Just a reminder, as a board member from the Bay Area Air District, we do have very poor air right now. So if you are pregnant, you're an older adult, please don't go out. The particulate matter is particularly high. It does actually get into your lungs and your bloodstream and can produce strokes and heart attacks. So yes, you need to take it very seriously. And thank you, Dr. Mace, for reminding us of the difference between the two masks. That's really very important. And then just finally on the health side too, just a lot of people have said to me, we don't feel strong anymore. You hear the word Sonoma strong. And I think there's a lot of meanings to that word strong, but sometimes being strong means recognizing that you need support or help and being vulnerable. And that's not weak. So reach out, talk to people, lots of stress and anxiety, understandably so. The whole county feels that way, but especially those fire survivors from the previous fires. And we do have a mental health line, and it is operating 7 days a week from 10 in the morning till 7 in the evening with live therapists to talk to you. Again, that's 565-2652, 565-2652. So strength means being in there together with all of us and supporting every person. Thanks.
Thank you, Supervisor Zane. Very well said. Appreciate you sharing that warm line number again, too. Supervisor Rabbit, you have some final thoughts?
Just again to say thank you to everyone that's out there, all the firefighters, all the different teams, CAL FIRE. Thank you all so very much. Thank our law enforcement partners as well, and all the support staff that are behind there, including our own County of Sonoma. Thank you to our federal partners, Congressman. Very much appreciate as well, and all of our state partners out there. I want to just make a quick plug. There's a lot of animals that have been evacuated, both to the Santa Rosa Fairgrounds and the Petaluma Fairgrounds. I visited the Petaluma Fairgrounds yesterday, and the front half of the facility is being used as the alternate care site. I understand we had 23 residents there. I know that we've had about 180 residents thereabouts sheltered in Santa Rosa as well. But we also had about, I think, maybe 700 animals in Petaluma alone. And I want to say thank you to the Sonoma County Farm Bureau, or the Farm Bureau Foundation of Sonoma County, for contributing today a $1,500 check to make sure that those animals were cared for. And if anyone is interested, and a lot of people are great animal lovers, if you're interested, the best way is really to contribute cash and dollars, funds through the Sonoma County Farm Bureau for the Farm Bureau Foundation. The animals that I saw take special care. There's even special feed for keeping the stress level down, and they need certain items that they can only get from certain places. So very much appreciate that, and again, appreciate all the great work that's been done by all of our partners out there.
Great. Thank you, Supervisor Rabbit. Well, we're going to wrap it up at this point. We want to let you know that, as Supervisor Gore mentioned, we are going to be putting together another community briefing, a town hall meeting for later this week, where we will be talking more about recovery and resources that are available to people as they return to their homes. We're dealing with destruction. We hope to have some of our representatives from Cal OES to be joining us for that. So we will send out information as soon as that is confirmed. Going forward, these briefings, we will have just once a day. Starting tomorrow, we'll just have the one at 4 o'clock instead of the twice a day. So we hope to see you all again back here at 4 o'clock tomorrow. Thank you and stay safe.